Namitakyapi, Lampe Tuwashte. Welcome to the ICT Newscast. I'm Shirley Snavy. The Everglades have long sheltered the Miccosukee people. Now they're standing guard against what the Trump administration calls Alligator Alcatraz, a detention center built without proper consultation, defending their sacred lands for future generations. Amelia Schaefer was there.
These were our hunting grounds. These are areas that we frequented to stay temporarily camp and travel and hunt for food and raise our families. But during the war times, this is a place that provided us refuge to hide into the Everglades because we knew that the soldiers, the cavalry, their horses would not be able to traverse this landscape. So we hid in the Everglades and were able to have a place of shelter, a place to find food, a place to exist and practice our cultural traditions and beliefs and our ceremonies. So this, to us, this is our home.
Betty Osceola is a Miccosukee citizen who lives just a few miles from Alligator Alcatraz, an immigration detention center in the Florida Everglades. The site has received immense pushback from environmentalists and the Miccosukee Tribe of Florida, whom the Everglades are sacred to. On Thursday, August 7th, U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams issued a temporary restraining order on Alligator Alcatraz, following a 2-day hearing on a lawsuit filed by the Friends of the Everglades and the Miccosukee Tribe of Florida. The lawsuit alleges that the site's hasty construction has skirted federal guidelines such as the Environmental Protection Act, National Historic Preservation Act, and Administrative Procedures Act.
When we do expansions here on the reservations, studies happen for years before we think about any construction moving forward. Anytime you put something that is unnatural in that kind of environment, it is going to do a big damage. We do have a lot of communities out there, camps. We have about 15 camps within like 10 miles of there, and 11 of them are within 3 miles. So when you talk about plant life, because the tribe, we do use native plants for our needs, and we want to make sure that all we have that we've always protected is still going to be here for generations to come. So we are doing studies ourselves from the tribal aspect that look into any environmental impact as far as light pollution, sound pollution, water pollution, any pollution that is derived from this facility. We are looking into it because we care about our environment. Like I said, all South Floridians, it's a very delicate ecosystem that we have here in the Everglades, and we have to make sure that we're taking care of it, not just for us, but for all of South Florida, including the wildlife. The importance of the Everglades is so, it's part of our backbone of a society, of a tribe. You know, during the Seminole Wars that we fought in, it was our shelter, it was our protector. And now that the war is not, the war is over in the sense that we're not fighting or killing each other like we were back in the day. We still fight and protect it on a day-to-day basis, ensuring that it's here for when we need it again in the future.
Tribal members like Betty Osceola have been making their presence and opposition known. Betty prays at the site every day, watching over her homelands.
I try to come out here every day, whether it's an hour or so, or like yesterday up until midnight, I was out here and trying to keep eyes on this location so that they know that, people have not forgotten. There's really no accountability here. They did not do any environmental impact studies. They didn't pull any permits. They just came in, commandeered their land, which is a land grab. They just took land from a county and started doing what they want with it. And so that's a threat on, local home rule. That's a threat to property rights, to show that, the government can just come in and do whatever they want. And for the environmental protections that were put in place, we are being personally directly impacted by what's going on here. And to me, it's a very scary thought for Florida that, using an executive order, that by doing this, the governor and his cronies have found a way to just go into any public lands or any space to just commandeer that land and under the guise of an emergency. So to me, that's a very scary thing. I would think, Florida is the poster child. This is a model for what Homeland Security wants to do in other states. They want other states to model what Florida is doing. So you can very well see governors of other states are watching Florida. So Florida is setting that precedence for other states to do something similar to Golden and Continental-based public lands for an ulterior motive. And if regardless of what party affiliation you have, if that does not alarm you, I don't know what else to say.
For ICT from Miccosukee and Seminole Homelands, I'm Amelia Schaefer.
The Passamaquoddy Tribe has regained nearly 8,000 acres in western Maine, connecting two major parcels of tribal lands. Stuart Huntington was there.
It's real exciting, and that's, to me, is what the whole land back movement should be focusing on. What are the priorities and what is important to the tribe?
Ralph Dana sits on the Wabanaki Commission on Land and Stewardship. It is made up of representatives from the 4 Wabanaki tribes and coordinates and leads land back efforts in what is now Maine.
We have 2 huge parcels of trust land up there that were separated, and what was starting to happen is, as tribal citizens were trying to go from one parcel to the other, they started encountering some resistance. There was some non-tribal citizens who tried to be pretty territorial, to put it mildly.
So the commission set out to connect the 2 parcels. With the help of some land conservationists in league with the commission, they did just that.
So we were able to acquire those thousands of acres that connects those 2 big parcels of territory in the Jackman region. So it's a continuous block now. We should be able to alleviate any issues for tribal citizens up there enjoying the territory, hunting, fishing, ceremonial purposes, gathering, whatever they'd like to do. So
the tribe closed on the nearly 8,000 acre parcel in June, ensuring tribal stewardship for the now contiguous 28,000 acres. The new parcel was purchased for $5.4 million with a commitment from the First Light Consortium of Western land conservation groups to raise the money to repay the tribe. First Light supports Indigenous leadership in land return efforts that, when successful, can be emotional. Witness Dale Mitchell, who helps oversee land in Metabumps the tribe got back in 2021 from the state of Maine.
The Passamaquoddy call it Dilnabenk. And Dilnabenk, loosely translated, is my relative's place. The site and tribal occupation dates back something in the neighborhood between 8 to 10,000 years. Basically, when I came here, I started to feel something here, a presence. It's like I had a connection with the property. And it's not cold today, but I'm getting goosebumps just, remembering what it was that I felt when I came here. There is a presence here. It's kind of like one of my happy places. I come here.
For ICT from Passamaquoddy Homelands, I'm Stuart Huntington.
Nitsika tai gitsib. Nitsika tai gitsib means I feel the good in what you've done. Nitsika tai gitsib. Nitsika tai gitsib. I feel the good in what you've done.
A $6 million project is bringing play spaces and resources to Native youth in Minnesota. See how this initiative is getting kids active and helping them thrive. The Shakopee, Mdewakanton Sioux community announced a major investment in the health of Minnesota Indigenous youth. IndigeFit Kids is a $6 million 3-year campaign to improve the physical and mental wellness of Native youth. Secretary-Treasurer Ashley Cornforth is co-chair of the project.
We're really excited to highlight Native youth in Minnesota. They're so important, and we want to tell them that they're important by showing them. We're going to put resources into them and including them along the way and saying, help us help you. let's get as many resources, as many, partners together all in one space to just kind of start tackling some of the issues that are happening.
The project brings together a number of organizations.
It creates really great partnerships. We're really big about community and engagement in that way. But I think once we reached out and told our partners what we were creating and what we were doing, everybody kind of wanted to jump in and get participating. So we have some research being done with Johns Hopkins University. We're going to be building some play spaces out in different areas in Minnesota with Kaboom. They do a great job building play spaces. And then we're working with the Minnesota Vikings. They're always a great partner. We're going to get some flag football going out there, hopefully getting some girls flag football going. Just getting kids active and engaged and addressing some of the health disparities that are happening right now.
It won't be easy. A student survey shows that 40% of Native youth are overweight or obese, and 76% do not participate in any physical activity outside of school.
All the statistics amongst youth in general right now are just, they're not great. But then when you focus in on Native youth specifically, it's the worst of the worst. And I think a lot of that does have to do with lack of resources contributing for our Native youth. A lot of that has to do with, attention being brought to it, and then how we can get them out of that. So yeah, movement, physical activity, just getting back off screens into playing. Just typical playing doesn't happen anymore. Whether it's because they don't have safe environments, or they don't feel safe, or mental health concerns. So this is a really big whole picture that we're trying to kind of address and just get kids to be kids again, and hopefully feel more confident in doing what they need to do.
And the Minnesota Vikings.
Who doesn't love the Vikings? So the kids getting to interact on training camp and seeing the players, that's always a hit. Just really, really excited for the next year. We're really going to be rolling out some good things.
For ICT, I'm Shirley Snavy. A project that has been making a difference in the lives of elders in Wisconsin faces a critical crossroad. Aditi Debnath and PBS Wisconsin have the story.
Whenever you eat indigenous foods that were culturally appropriate to who you are, it actually speaks to your DNA. It actually speaks to who you are as an individual.
The Tribal Elder Food Box program launched during the COVID-19 pandemic to address food insecurity among Native American elders in Wisconsin's tribes.
Our very first distribution here, I don't know if it was 2021, but we distributed 400 boxes in I think an hour and a half. And so from there, the program just keeps growing and growing.
The program provides elders healthy, culturally relevant food from producers that use sustainable practices.
We had 20-something indigenous producers. Now we're up to like 40 or 50 indigenous producers.
Today, dozens of indigenous farmers, food makers, and processors supply food for the boxes, creating new markets for Native farmers. Initially serving just 3 tribal communities, the program quickly expanded to reach every indigenous tribe in Wisconsin.
We're going all the way from the top of Wisconsin, Bayfield, all the way down to Milwaukee, and down to Madison, to Ho-Chunk.
Tara Roberts Turner is the manager of the Wisconsin Food Hub Cooperative, a statewide organization that helps local farmers sell and distribute their product.
It's definitely more difficult.
This year, the loss of federal funding for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Local Food Purchase Assistance, or LFPA, sent shockwaves throughout the country, disrupting vast networks of producers, distributors, and recipients. The Food Hub, which provided distribution for many food bank programs under LFPA, found its infrastructure caving in.
We had a lot of backhauls from the tribal elder runs, so we would go all the way up to Bayfield, and then we would pick product up all the way back. Now we're left bringing an empty truck all the way back.
The funding cuts have forced logistical changes, increased costs, and left trucks empty on return trips, straining the entire operation. The challenges extend beyond food delivery, impacting local economies and farmers, including indigenous farmers.
It's been a great partnership to really grow together over the past couple of years.
Isaiah Scannendor oversees a 50-cow herd on his beef farm in Seymour, Wisconsin. He joined the LFPA program to supply beef and chicken directly to tribal elders.
One thing that was unique with that program was you got to pick where your product would go to the end user. And so I was able to have all of our beef and chickens that was purchased through that program and under contract get sent to the Elder Box program.
Scanandor, a member of the Oneida Nation, uses regenerative farming techniques like rotational grazing, which mimics natural grazing practices and promotes healthier soils and livestock. He says the program's focus on fresh, sustainable food is a major shift from the past, when federally funded food boxes known as tribal commodities were often filled with processed items like canned meats and powdered milk, which were high in preservatives. For many Native families, these foods were a lifeline, but they also contributed to health problems that still affect Native communities today.
When I was a kid with my grandma, I remember going and picking up the tribal commodities, which is right down the road here, and you'd get the government commodities, which would be the flour and processed cheese and processed foods, and it's led to a lot of the epidemics we have, throughout Indian country. And to come full circle now and be able to provide high quality protein and sustainable food source to our elders, we take a lot of, it really, makes you pretty proud.
Indigenous people are 1.5 times more likely to develop diabetes and up to 3 times more likely to experience heart failure. For elders like Kathy Hughes, the food boxes make a difference.
And I find when I don't have stuff like that in my refrigerator, then I'm doing the fast food. I'm doing a lot of sandwiches and, cold cuts, that kind of stuff. Not really healthy for you. Versus the boxes, I'm cooking and I'm getting healthy stuff when I cook.
Beyond physical health, the program helps foster connection between Indigenous people and their culture. Marlon Scanandor is an Oneida councilman who brought the food box program to his tribe.
I ran a food pantry for 6 years, and in the beginning, a majority of the people that we seen was just single elders, 65 plus, living off Social Security. They don't have enough to pay their bills, and so if some of the items that you would get in here are going to be expensive items, the things that they wouldn't be able to afford or they would just walk by in the grocery store. So us to provide this nutritious, good, wholesome food to them, I think is vital for their longevity in life and being a part of this community.
For the past 2 years, the Tribal Elder Food Box Program has received funding from the state's biennial budget. For 2026, Governor Evers has asked the state legislature to approve $2 million for the program. The end of the federal LFPA program leaves a $1.5 million gap in the program's budget come 2026.
We've looked at incorporation as a nonprofit and starting to look for some of the philanthropic funding out there. There are many who want to see us succeed, and thank God they're there.
Gary Besaw, one of the program's founders, says the funding challenges are daunting, but the farmers say they need help.
They're coming forward and saying, we were depending on that. Is there room? Do you need product? If you can, that's going to help keep us going. This will keep us from going bankrupt.
The fate of the Tribal Elder Food Box program will signal not just the state's commitment to its Native communities, but also its vision for local food systems, rural economies, and the dignity of its elders.
I know my doctor is probably pleased.
I always tell people, we're not smart. The old people were smart. We just parrot them. And people might think, these guys know what they're doing. That's because we listen. We listen to the old people.
For ICT, from the homelands of Oneida Nation, I'm Aditi Debnath.
Tribes across the country are turning to golf as a new driver of economic development while honoring the land and its history. Here's Daniel Herrera Carbajal.
Land is deeply embedded in Native cultures, and for Mark Wagner, a golf historian and author of Native Links, the game of golf is also about land.
Land is key. Like, the game of golf requires the most amount of land of any game in human history, right? Like an 18-hole course requires roughly 250 acres. And in Native culture, land is everything, right? I mean, land is, one of the ethics of Native culture is, the land is going to outlive us, right? We are the earth is our mother, right? So I think that there's a natural kind of ethic there of being close to the land.
While the sport is often associated with white elitism and criticized as a, quote, rich man's game, Native people have embraced the sport since Oscar Smithbun played in the U.S. Open golf tournaments in 1896 and 1899.
Some Native golfers who really succeeded, Althea Gibson, Joe Lewis, Orville Moody, they weren't identified as Native, right, because of the history of loss of culture, the history of the white press not acknowledging Native culture, and so on and so forth. So my book is an attempt to try and address that and identify Native contributions to the game. And, like the Orville Moody story is tremendous. He was full-blooded Choctaw, but he had joined the Army and they identified him as Sarge, right? When he won the 1969 U.S. Open, which was the 69th U.S. Open, interestingly enough, Choctaw Nation held like a big celebration for him. They gave him an eagle headdress. They had a parade. His mother was in the convertible, and but the press didn't acknowledge that at all. So my book is trying to kind of correct some of those misperceptions.
This long history of Native golf took a turn in the 1970s and 1980s when tribes, aided by the revenues from gaming and fee-to trust programs, began to develop their own golf courses on tribal lands.
Beginning in the early 1990s, Native tribes began to build golf courses on reservations, and that has created a culture of golfers and golf tourism.
The Mescalero Apache started things off with the Inn of the Mountain Gods in 1975. The golf courses that followed have combined the economic visions of the tribes with renowned course designers and players. One of the most economically successful tribes in America, the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community of Minnesota, added golf to their holdings in 2002 when they purchased Lone Pine Country Club. The course was remodeled by architects Garrett Pill and Paul Miller and reopened in late summer 2005 as the Meadows at Mystic Lake. The facility has since drawn numerous awards and recognitions. While Native reservations were not picked for their abundant resources and prime real estate, Wagner says tribal nations still look to be good stewards of the land when designing and constructing golf courses.
I think that Native people come at it from, we're not just going to bring in bulldozers, we're going to talk to the land, we're going to talk to the great spirits, however you define that, and say, hey, we're going to put in a golf course, but we're not going to disturb the cultural artifacts that might be there, any graveyards that might be there. So I think there's a real accent on honoring the ancestry of who was there before. So, for example, Nota Begay is brought in as a cultural consultant a lot of times. And they'll say, how should we work this land? What can we do to preserve any artifacts or other things there? Preserve the native spirit of the land. So I think it's really principle number one, as far as the tribes come at it from that perspective of honoring the land, stewarding the land, and water, big issue, right? To not use pesticides in places, to honor the earth by sustainable practice, using less water. All of these things are part of the native golf culture.
Looking ahead, golf courses are being seen by many tribes as an economic engine that can complement other aspects of a tourism economy.
Golf, believe it or not, not only gaming, which began in 1988, but now golf is driving that economy on native land. Now, it's complicated, right? I'm not an advocate for, golf being the way that tribes come back,
For ICT News, Daniel Herrera Carbajal.
At the Winnebago Powwow in Nebraska, Little Priest is getting due recognition as a warrior and leader who served as a cavalry scout during the 1860s.
The heroics of the Ho-Chunk leader are well known to the citizens of the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska, and the tribe's annual powwow is a cultural homecoming celebration honoring Chief Little Priest and his brother Gray Wolf, as well as the Company A Scouts. But Little Priest's importance to the settlement of a young country has gone unnoticed to the tribe's white neighbors until now. Robert Birch, a retired Army Command Sergeant Major, knew something had to be done to honor this man who died for his country in 1866.
I'm here to assist with the presentation of the Armor and Cavalry Association's Order of St. George Bronze Medallion in honor of Chief Little Priest.
The award we're going to be giving Chief Little Priest is the Order of St. George in the bronze category. And normally discharged sergeants of U.S. forces will be eligible for maybe a black category, which is the lowest. But because he raised his own Company A scouts and fought alongside U.S. cavalry members during a time when they needed support the most, we were able to, with the help of Mr. Richard Birch, former civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army and retired Command Sergeant Major, get some exceptions to policy in order to award Chief Little Priest a posthumous Order of St. George Medallion.
He was a grand leader of 70 warriors that was very beneficial to the United States Army in the success of settling the homeland that we enjoy right now.
Gordon Rave heads the Winnebago's Veterans Association. Little Priest is the name of the tribe's community college.
The naming of him, the tribe just, to honor him. And his motto was to educate his children. And with the college, that's what the tribe is doing for it. And it's his name.
Upon hearing his story, I guess all I can really say what I felt was, I felt hope. And because of that, we're here to award Chief Little Priest the Order of St. George Bronze Medallion on behalf of the U.S. Cavalry, thanks to his efforts in serving as a cavalry scout for the U.S. military.
For ICT, from the homelands of the Winnebago and Omaha nations, I'm Shirley Snavy.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.